All right, we are back. The Mouse and the Goof. You know, we're on episode 6, which I feel like we've done a lot more episodes than 6, but it's probably just because we're doing them once a month.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh, I feel like we've been doing this forever.
We have. We just haven't recorded most of the conversations that we've had, which is unfortunate.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true. We've been doing this our whole life.
Yeah. Just carry a
But
pocket recorder around. I guess I did for a little while, but not for talking about Disney movies. We were,
uh, go back to episode 1, our
yeah,
Snow White episode, to hear some of the products of that tape recorder.
episode
Oh,
2.
episode 2. Oh, of course. How could I
How could
forget
you forget
our
about
favorite movie,
Wish?
Wish? How could I forget?
You know,
Oh
it
my
is our most viewed episode. So,
Our first episode.
yeah.
What does that mean for our channel?
It
It means it
means
was a really good
people. It
episode.
means it's a really good episode, and everybody does hates Wish and likes to hear people talk about how much they hate Wish. I can't say
So
that.
true.
I actually know someone that likes Wish, so I should be nicer
Shocking.
about it.
No. But today is a very special episode, I think, because it is one of, is it the top seeded Disney
It's
movie
up
or
there. I have a
top
I have a
3?
rotation.
I think it'd be fair to say it's in your top 3.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Top 3 favorite Disney movies, maybe movies of all time. I don't know. But this is I'm going to take a back seat on this episode because Jess is the expert on Atlantis.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've really been looking forward to talking about this one.
It's
Um,
Atlantis. Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Feels like it came out a million years ago. So
2001.
yep, I was
Yeah.
9. We were 9, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
I
No,
haven't turned
you
9 yet.
hadn't
It
turned
came
9
out
yet. Yep, you're right.
I just read that date. I think it was like June 15th or something.
Yeah,
I was soon to be 9.
you were soon to be 9. I was 9, an old 9-year-old. Yeah. So I have a synopsis if you want me to read
Yeah,
it.
go for it.
So the synopsis I pulled up on Google is an inexperienced young adventurer becomes the key to unraveling an ancient mystery when he joins up with a group of daredevil explorers to find the legendary lost empire of Atlantis. A naive but determined museum cartographer, Milo Thatch, dreams of completing the quest begun by his late grandfather, a famous explorer. When a journal surfaces, an eccentric billionaire funds his expedition and the action shifts into high gear.
This is Disney's action
It
movie.
is. This is the action movie. They were like, no songs.
Oh,
I think the crew had a t-shirt that
I
said,
read that too.
what was it? I wrote it down. Fewer songs, more explosions. I'm like, I want one of those shirts.
That's so
How do I
funny.
get one of those?
Because it was coming out of around, I mean, a few movies removed, but when they would have been starting production, it was coming out of the Renaissance. They started production after Hunchback. Um, and so they were ready to go in a different direction, which action movie is the way they decided to go.
Yeah.
And we will discuss whether we thought that was good or not. I think it's already, I think the viewers know that Jessica thinks it was good. Um, no, but I do too. I think it's a great movie. It's one that's really fun to go back and rewatch.
Yep.
Um, so yeah,
So
do we want to jump into our prompts?
yeah, let's do it.
I'm curious what your answer is on what the classic Disney moment is. Because I'll say for me, it does feel different from other Disney movies, especially when you think about what it came after with the Renaissance and stuff. And so much of classic Disney movies are the music, at least for me, or is the music. So much of it, whatever. Um, but yeah, I'm curious what you would say the classic Disney moment is.
So it is different in, I guess, like when we talked about and Meet the Robinsons. Like that movie to me didn't really feel very like Disney-y. Atlantis, I think Atlantis still feels Disney-ish to me because of the rose tinted glasses that I have for that
Mhm.
movie, whereas I didn't have that at all going into watching Meet the Robinsons.
Well, and I'll say this is the first time that we've done two movies from the same era
Yeah,
back to back because Meet the Robinsons was in the same
yeah, that same,
era, that same kind of, what do they call it? Oh, I think they call it the experimental.
yeah, the
Yeah,
experimental
the
era.
experimental era. So Meet the Robinsons was at the end of that era,
Oh,
2007,
okay.
whereas Atlantis was near the beginning in
Yeah,
2001. Um, but anyways, go ahead,
yeah.
continue. So,
So I think I wrote down the side character. This one
mhm,
has a lot of side characters, but there was a point in time when Disney was really good at making side characters.
mm, yeah,
Interesting, fun side characters like the
memorable.
genie, Mushu, any of the characters from Tarzan, like
Yeah,
funny and memorable, and that was
Sebastian.
so
Yeah,
yeah, any and all of those kind of characters. I
yeah.
mean, even like Olaf or whatever. Those
Mhm.
they were really good at that, and that's a classic thing. You've got a funny side character, and a lot of them after Aladdin came out like to break the fourth wall, which I don't think we really had any
Mhm.
of that in this movie, but
Right.
we did have some characters that were just real funny, real sharp, real quick, like Vinny.
Yes.
I love Vinny. I think
I do too. Yeah.
he's one of my favorite characters, which is
Yeah.
the next prompt. But like Mole and I can remember all of their names, which
Yeah.
I know a part of that's because I've seen the movie a bajillion times. But like, there's some Disney movies like I don't know some of the side characters' names
Yeah.
because it's old. I didn't watch it very much. They didn't have enough personality for me to care. Like, there's a lot of that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was my classic moment.
I love it. I love it. I think that's good. Um, and we've talked about those side characters before. I think it was during the Wish episode that when we were kind of complaining about those characters who lacked depth.
Yeah,
I think you mentioned Atlanta specifically of you can have a big cast
yeah,
um and give story to each of those characters, which actually takes me to something that I read talking again about how there's no music in this one.
mm-hmm.
I was reading that that allowed them to do more of the character development.
Yeah,
It was talking specifically about the scene where they're all sitting around the fire and like telling their history and,
yeah,
you know, going to bed. And that they were saying we would never have time for that
yeah.
normally if we were filling the movie with songs. So I thought that was an interesting distinction and addition to the conversation that we were having about Wish and those
Mm-hmm.
side characters.
We had to mention
Um,
Wish at least once.
Yeah, we will always. That is the theme of our
Yeah,
podcast. Or it's not a podcast. I don't know why I keep calling it that.
it's a video, a vod. You could call it a vodcast, I guess.
Is that a
But
term?
yeah,
Podcast?
yeah,
Oh, I like
VOD
that.
vodcast.
Okay,
I
a
mean, it could be
podcast.
a. I mean, it could be a. It is a podcast. If we put it on like
If any of our
Spotify,
viewers, yeah, if any of our viewers know how we can make it a podcast, I just don't have the bandwidth to research it. I did like one night of research and then was like, this looks hard. Bye.
we'll
um,
stick with YouTube for now.
yeah,
At least
it's more
YouTube's at
profitable for us.
yeah. At least YouTube has the ability to like you can leave it on in the background now.
Yeah,
Unlike a couple of years ago when you couldn't do that for some
sure.
reason. Anyways.
That's true. But what was I gonna say? And there is something about like I think about Encanto when you meet the side characters through song,
Mhm.
which is fun and that's fine. But there is something about like just the way that we meet these side characters of like it's very organic.
Yeah.
Milo's just entering this new world and literally bumping into people
Yeah.
or going into his room and meeting his, roommate or, stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's very organic rather than, haha, and here's Auntie and here's
Yeah.
that, da, 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 da. Yeah.
So you're
It's just a
going
different
in. We as if let's pretend we're Milo because we're watching all this
vibe.
from Milo's perspective. We are
Yeah.
the new kid coming into the classroom, and everybody's
Mm-hmm.
already got friends. That is what
Mm-hmm.
we've walked into because you can see all of the characters, side characters, hang out together. I mean, not Rourke; he's doing his own thing. He and Helga are doing something, but like the Vinny, Mole,
Yeah.
Cookie, even the old lady. What's her name? Mrs.
Oh,
Packard.
I was
They're
gonna say, you said you know all the names, Jess. Come on. You
listen,
say this is your favorite movie.
it is. I'm just so excited. I'm forgetting people's names.
I'm just kidding. We're moms.
But
We're allowed to forget
yeah, we're lucky we remember anything really.
things.
But they have this. They have a bond already. Audrey stands out a little bit to me because
Right.
obviously she kind of knows these guys already, maybe because her dad worked with them at some point,
Yeah.
so she has more connection than Milo does, but
Yeah.
they've known each other for years, so they've
Right.
already got this flow going with each other, and then
Mm-hmm.
Milo comes in and he's new and awkward and nerdy, and they're all
Mm-hmm.
just gonna make fun of him for half of the film, and even after later in the movie they're still teasing him about stuff, even
Yeah.
though now he's like a respected leader. They're still gonna give him a hard time.
Right. 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 So true. So we touched on it briefly, but who's your favorite character?
So I think I can't pick just one. I'm
Yeah.
terrible. I'm
I
terrible at that.
expected that.
But Milo, Kita, and then Vinny. Just
Yeah.
Milo is nerdy. He's
Yeah.
like
He's a great
he's a
protagonist.
great protagonist. He's not your typical like beefy whatever you want to like. I
Expected
guess
hero.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Indiana Jones, which I don't get me wrong. I love
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. You can attest to that. But just
Yeah.
that different kind of character. He's like lanky. He's awkward. He's book smart, and he's
Mm-hmm.
just trying to do his best out there. But
Yeah.
he comes into his own, and I think that's great. Princess
I
Kita's
put
just awesome.
I was gonna say, I was going back and forth because I was like, oh, is Kita too obvious of a pick? But she's such a different, like, female Disney character.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, I guess there are a handful that break the princess mold, Esmeralda's one comes to mind, but Kita's just so strong. And, I love that we start the movie meeting her and understanding like her history and seeing her as a kid and that being a through line of just how important she is to the story.
Yeah.
And she's beautiful and like just cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Keto was
She's
my original pick, but then I was like, if I had to pick one of the team,
yeah.
like Vinny is the one that
Yeah.
stands out the most because he's just so funny.
Yeah.
Like his humor is just so like
It's
dry. I don't even know.
it's dry. Sometimes it's kind of not out of left field, but it's I don't know. I like the first time we meet him, Milo's like, "What's all this stuff you got there?" He's like, "Oh, it's gunpowder, nitroglycerin, notepad, fuses, wicks, glue, and paper clips. Big ones, office supplies." That's probably my favorite lines. I say that line sometimes, and I get looked at funny because nobody knows what I'm referencing. But it's
Oh,
and
it's
then
so great.
hey, look, I made a bridge. It took me like 10 seconds, 11 tops. Like, I remember that line from the trailer. Like,
Yeah, I love
so,
it.
like,
He's
yeah.
great.
If I was gonna say maybe like a series of quotes from that movie, they would be 90% of them would be from Vinny. Just,
That's great.
let's see. What about, what was your best scene, if you have?
Yeah. No, best scene. I really like when Milo and Kita go off together
Mm-hmm.
for the first time. Like have that kind of one-on-one, the pretty girl, pretty good,
Yeah.
pretty good. Like that's just a fun scene.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a classic like girl guy, like
Yeah.
obviously they gotta fall in love sort of. I guess that could be a classic Disney moment,
Yeah.
um but it's in a different way, and like
Yeah.
Kita's clearly focused on like, I need your help with this,
Yeah.
and he's like distracted by her beauty.
Oh,
Yeah.
I swim pretty girl. Pretty good, pretty good. Good, swim good, pretty good. I swim pretty good.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Whatever, but
I
think that's a fun one.
It's not overtly romantic, but it's almost like organically romantic.
Kind of relatable.
Yeah.
That like dorky, like
It's not like
dorky
I
guy
just saw
being
you
like,
and
oh
now
my
I
God,
love
beautiful
you.
girl.
Yeah.
What do I do around pretty girl?
Yeah, it's the awkward, like, I don't know what to do with myself. Let's just
and then
go.
it's just a cool, and then it just moves into a cool part of them swimming underwater and finding and him reading this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
So that's the one that comes to mind. What about you?
I think my favorite scene is when they're in the crystal chamber. So, everything's terrible. Like, everybody's turned on Milo. Rourke and Helga have Kita and Milo hostage and hurt the king, and they go down into this chamber, and there's this giant crystal, and you're like, oh, it's the thing that Milo's been trying to figure out what this is the whole time. We've been trying, or not the whole time, but up to this, at least since the expedition, Milo's been trying to figure out what this is. And Rourke's been like, oh, look, I have the thing that it's about, and they want to sell it, blah, blah, blah. So then Kita connects with the crystal, and then the music starts playing, and she's like, the crystal's like floating in front of her.
Please note that Jessica has the crystal. She would like to show off her accessory.
Me too. And she like turns around and she tells Milo that everything's going to be fine. It'd be okay in Atlantean, which I think is rad.
They're a part of it. It's a part of them. I'm doing the best I can here.
Well, do better.
Well, I know. Why don't you translate, and I'll wave the gun around.
What did she say?
I don't know. I didn't catch it.
And then she walks on the water and floats up, and the crystal does all the thing. And it's a visually, like, crazy and beautiful scene. Just everything about it, and then the music along with it. And then when she comes down and the stones start falling around her, and she's like floating on the water, but then when the water splashes up, it goes over her like a dome, which is cool because it's foreshadowing what's going to happen later in the movie.
I didn't think about it that way, but yes,
she's being protected by this like dome. Anyway, I love it. It's so pretty. When I was a child, when we were children, I temporarily convinced my mom to let me put a blue light bulb in my ceiling fan.
Did you really? Oh, I don't remember that.
I don't remember. I think I was gonna try. I don't know. Let's see, 9, 10. It didn't last long because
I was gonna say I don't think I was around.
Yeah, it didn't last long because it made my eyes hurt. I couldn't use it as like a regular reading lamp.
We have smart bulbs in our master bedroom, and so when my toddler comes in there, like in the morning or whatever, he's always like, Asha, Asha, which means Alexa, because we turn them on with Alexa. And so then we'll go, Alexa, turn all the lights blue. And he's like, wow.
Oh, that's so fun.
That's so cute. But yeah, the blue is a little annoying.
Yeah. I think my plan was I was going to make some like stone heads out of paper and like tape them to the ceiling fan. I think that was the plan. I don't think I finished the plan, but that was inspired by that scene. I'm a nerd. I don't know if you guys know that.
What?
Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I have lots of Atlantis stories. But let's continue, and we'll get to some of those later. Yeah.
But do you want to say the other scene that I really enjoy is the opening when we meet Milo
Mm-hmm.
and when he's like practicing
Yep.
the little speech and just that whole sequence.
Yeah.
Um, I really like that one too.
It's a good time. It's one of the openings that I have a lot just backlogged in the back of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what is the worst scene? Is there one? What's one that you're like, ugh?
I don't know. This one's hard for me because it's also nice and
Yeah.
fun. I don't love the part where Milo sits on the whoopee cushion, because it's a fart joke. But like
And that
it's
is beneath Disney.
well, not anymore. There was a time when it wasn't as common as it is now, but I don't love that. It doesn't break the film for me. And it's like you're included in our group now, haha, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But the I don't I don't know. I wrote down the twist villain, but it's not a bad one. It makes me sad that the crew did that, but it also makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
So I can't even really say that that's the least favorite. It's just I don't know. It's all really good. Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
I think this kind of goes along with our like what could they do better question, which
Yeah.
I'm guessing the answer is nothing and that it's a perfect film. That's my answer.
No, I actually do have an answer for this. I do have an answer for this. There are parts of this movie that have some weird story beats. There's parts where it feels really fast, thrown like everything's going really, really quick, and then there's other parts where it's kind of slow. And the slow parts are awesome. Like you're getting that time to meet all the like characters at the camp scene, or Milo and Keto wandering around the city together. These are slower moments. They're not running around from things catching on fire or whatever. I guess the part that I've noticed it the most is from Milo to the ship is really, really fast. From the point of we're introduced to Milo, he's trying to talk people into helping fund his research, to oh, we're sudden like here's Helga, she broke into my apartment. Oh, we're with Mr. Whitmore now. Oh, we're with Mr. Whitmore's like, yeah, we're going. Everything's ready for you to go. It's funny, and I understand why it's the way it is because they need to get to the mission. Because
I guess I wonder like what more do we need to see in that part? I feel like because of how like zany Mr. Whitmore's character is, like it makes sense that oh yeah, he has the ship ready.
Yeah.
And he was just waiting he already knew Milo was gonna say yes.
Yeah.
So like I wonder what they would even show us to drag that out.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean there, though.
It's just that little section. Everything else feels pretty good. That little section right there has always just felt real, not disjointed, but just real quick. We are going from 0 to 100 really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not really. I couldn't give you a better idea of what they could put in there. Maybe more something else to do with his grandfather. We got that really short segment there because we don't know anything about his grandfather aside from the fact that he was a good guy. That's about all we have. They could have maybe stretched, but again, it's an animated Disney movie. They had a set amount of time they were allowed to film.
Well, and I thought it was interesting that they even get to Atlantis pretty quickly. They don't spend it almost doesn't seem that hard to get to Atlantis.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Because okay, sure, they survived the Leviathan. Like, did they just have a better ship than everybody else had before? Like,
yeah.
You know, those obstacles. While there are obstacles,
they seem quick.
I don't want to say that hard.
The nice thing they did do, and it's all time related, but they were able to do a traveling montage, which I think was good, because otherwise we just would have gone from the ship blew up to, oh, we're at Atlantis now. Like,
Found
at
it.
least we found it. There's no problems. We were fine. Like, we're able to see some of that. And again, I think there's some good moments where they do stop, like the funeral they have after they have a bunch of people die in this movie for children. And then the campfire
Classic
scene.
Disney
Yeah,
moment.
classic Disney. And then they have the campfire scene, and it's like they do have these stop and slow, get to know people moments in between these like action scenes, which is what action movies are like, and that's what they were going for. So,
For sure.
oh man,
You ready to talk about the animation style?
sure.
Because I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. It kind of reminded me of what we talked about with Meet the Rob. I think it was Meet the Robinsons that we talked about, that kind of TV show style of animation. That's kind of what it reminded me of, and I wondered whether the animation style was part of why it wasn't received as well. I don't know. It doesn't seem at the same level as like our Renaissance movies, but could be wrong. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, a lot of the characters are more angular. So you can see it really easily on like Milo's hands. Hold on, I have examples.
Sometimes we put in visuals in post-production. Today, this just has books.
So, and like Kita's got rounder shapes because they're trying to make her a little softer looking. But a lot of the characters have more like angular, even like she's got some angles on her. Her hair, her eyes are really round and her lips are soft, but anyways, the reason behind that is because of the style they were going for. I guess I could have just put stuff in post, but I like having the books next to me.
You have them.
Is because of the they were going for its very specific style. It's very comic book.
Yes.
Because comic books.
Yeah, I was almost gonna say like anime almost.
Yeah, that was I'm shaking the entire table.
So excited.
So excited.
When we were doing a sound check before, Jess's husband comes on to help us with the tech a little bit, and he was like, I'm talking softer than Jess, yeah, and I was like, she's gonna be talking about Atlantis. She's gonna be loud.
Listen, I really like this movie.
It's very passionate.
But yeah, it's very like comic book anime-ish. So the style of the film was based on a comic book artist whose name is Mike Mignola. Maybe, I don't know if I said his last name right. And he one of the most famous ones he did was a comic series called Hellboy, which is very angular. Actually, hold on one second. I don't have it yet, but when I was doing research, I found out that Atlantis was getting a graphic, like a comic book novelization thing. So
like a new one?
It's the same story, but it's in a comic book style.
Oh, fun. Is that from Disney or is it someone else?
So it's actually the let's see. It's a comic adaptation of Disney's Atlantis Lost Empire, and it features a cover and behind-the-scenes sketches by comics luminary Mike Mignola. So he's like, hey, yeah, I want to do that. It's a very different kind of, well, you can't even see that.
I'm gonna Google
I'll
it
send
here,
you,
and you can put it in.
But Yeah, it's
Yeah, I guess I can especially see sorry, I do not know the characters' names as well, and I didn't write them down. My research was not as good, but bad guy.
oh, Rourke.
What's his name? Rourke, thank you. You can definitely see Rourke in this. Oh, just that square
Yeah.
jaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, very boxy, angular.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
very
it's
interesting.
very stylized, and it was a very different shift from what Disney had been doing in the
Yeah.
Renaissance. Everything in the Renaissance was very smooth and circular to a degree.
Yeah.
And there's some characters that have more boxy shapes, but yeah, Atlantis is a lot more boxy, and even the backgrounds are like that. They're just, it just makes them stand out more, I think. And
Which I guess I'm looking at The Emperor's New Groove, which is the movie that came out before that. That kind of has some of it too. I guess not as much, but like Kronk
their
specifically.
hands are very like that weird rectangular
Yeah,
shape.
so it's just kind of a style they were going with.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Interesting.
if you just look at this picture right here, this is very comic book
Yeah.
in its
Oh, absolutely.
design.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I've never had a problem with it, but I think people that loved the Disney Renaissance style of films probably
It was just different.
found it off-putting. And again, they're like, there's no singing in this movie. Like, what the heck? What are we gonna do? But
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing, which I had forgotten, is that it was coming out around the time or at the same time as Shrek. So that when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. So we're kind of there was there was other stuff out there in terms of animation, and it was more edgy and just it was tough competition.
yeah, yeah. Well, I have thoughts about. I was not a Shrek fan.
Yes, I remember
I
that.
don't know very many people that don't like Shrek. I'm not saying I don't like Shrek, but I don't like Shrek the way most people like Shrek.
Yeah.
No, I hated Shrek when it came out.
Because of the bird.
Because of the bird exploding, partially. It also just, I didn't like that they were making fun of Disney at the time because I was a child and I didn't know that
Yes.
making fun of Disney was cool. But I was like, they're insulting this thing that I love a lot. And
Yeah.
I had to grow up and realize that that's
Okay.
that's what happens. But also, I didn't like the like crudeness because some of it I didn't get because I was
Yeah.
homeschooled and I didn't experience.
Well, and that just wasn't really
Yeah.
our like
Yeah,
both of our upbringing. Like
it wasn't in
it's on
my world of
Yeah.
entertainment. I just didn't really enjoy it as much.
we weren't Nickelodeon kids at all,
No.
and Shrek is definitely more in my mind like Nickelodeon.
So, but everybody loved that movie.
We were sheltered.
We-
That's what we're trying to say.
we were sheltered. I mean, you were even in public school, but like,
I still was sheltered.
yeah, I
was very much not cool in public school because all the other kids, it's like, what's your favorite TV show? I remember this so clearly in middle school. And they're like, Desperate Housewives. And I'm like,
what?
I didn't think of Kim Possible.
You were cool to me, Ashley. I thought you were so cool.
I know, that's why being friends with you was so great. This is my one place to be cool. I'm totally kidding.
Oh, but that's just that was just the world we lived in. So then Shrek came out, and then suddenly Disney's like, we need to do that.
Yeah.
And
that's why we get Chicken Little.
Yep.
Oh.
But yeah, so I think there was just I think there was a lot going on behind the scenes that I have no idea with the amount of like research that I've done.
We weren't privy to those conversations.
Just Michael Eisner was wanting to make money, which is what you do when you run a company, and he was looking for cool things. A lot of the parks stuff that was going on, and I guess some of the movies too, was because he would go home and ask his like preteen, teenage son, "Hey, do you think this is cool?" And his son would be like, "Yeah, this is dope," or "No, this is terrible." And that feels like a weird way to run your business. But what do I know?
I wouldn't know.
I have no idea.
We're not owners, but
So
it does seem like an odd.
yeah. So I have no idea, but I thought this movie was amazing. And I think some of it that had to do with my experience with it.
All right.
Okay, so story time.
Story time.
Story time. See this hat?
Oh, what is that? Yeah.
This
yeah.
is a part of the story. So, it was 2001. June 2001.
A simpler time.
A simpler time. Well, sort of. So, at this point in our history, our friend Andrew had been diagnosed with leukemia when we were 8. So it was about a year-ish before. So when he would start his treatments, he would go in Fridays. I don't remember how often it was, but he would go in on Fridays. So my mom and I would go, and my mom helped watch all the kids while Andrew and his mom were at the hospital. So as a kind of like a thank you, they started inviting us to do stuff like going to Disneyland. So Andrew's dad worked for ABC. I don't know what he did exactly, but they got to do all kinds of cool stuff because of that. So they got tickets to go see Atlantis early on June 3rd at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they invited Mom and I.
I don't remember. I'm sure you've told me this, but I do not remember this.
This is the one time I've been,
because I wasn't around during this time.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
yeah.
So I was having to fill the hole with Disney.
By my absence.
Yeah. So we piled up. Let's see. Mom and I got up at 4 a.m. to drive to Andrew's house, and then piled into their 15-passenger van, passenger van.
What was the premiere?
I don't know. It was early. But we had to drive to Hollywood.
The morning premiere?
Yeah.
Hollywood's not that far away, Jess.
Man, I don't know. I just remember we had to get up really early, and I was tired. That's all I remember.
I'm just like imagining that it was probably like 7 a.m.
It
but
wasn't.
You were a kid,
It
so.
was dark outside. It was early.
Okay.
Anyways.
Kathy, we know you're watching. Please comment below and verify this story. And let us know what time you think it was. And if you have any explanation as to why this premiere was, Andrew, if you're watching,
do you
have any
why was it so early?
Why this premiere?
I just remember we had to get up early, and so I think it was because we had to get to their house at like, maybe we had to get to their house at like 6 or something, and it was. I just remember it was early.
You live 2 hours away.
I don't know.
I'm sorry to poke
I
holes
just
into your
remember it
story.
was an early morning.
Okay, I'm sorry. Tell your story. I am being a terrible co-host, but I know where all these places are on the map, and
man, I don't know. I was a
I'm
kid.
so
I
sorry.
was 9 years old. It felt early. The sun wasn't up yet. It was.
There was snow on the ground
in June.
Please continue with your
good,
story. It was 4 a.m.
It was really early in the morning, and we piled into their van and we drove to Hollywood. I remember the drive. There's a lot of parts that I don't remember exactly, but then we get into this. We get into the theater. It's like this huge theater with a bajillion seats in there. And they do like a pre-show before the movie starts. And Andrew's brother, Adam, got picked, and they gave him a hat. Well, I don't know what Adam was thinking, but he gave me the hat, and Andrew was mad at him forever. Anyways, I still have the hat. I'm gonna be buried with this thing.
Okay. Noted.
This is my hat.
No, I love that.
But yeah, so then we watched the movie, and it was rad. And
did you immediately love it?
I remember feeling like, this is different. I like that. I don't know what about it is that I like, but it's different. I was very anti like romantic characters and dresses on princesses at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, they didn't kiss, but it's like you can tell they're gonna get together. I really like that. I don't know why I was that way, but anyways.
We're 9.
But then after that, there was a building next to the El Capitan that had all of this Atlantis stuff on display.
Yes, I was reading about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was like behind the scene props, and Milo and Keto were there in like their costumes. And then there was laser tag. The only thing I remember is laser tag. I remember playing laser tag in this like blue and black space. And it was all glowy, and that's really all I remember about that part of my experience there. But I ended up seeing that movie 3 more times in the theaters before it came out.
That's so great. That's so great.
And I got as many of the toys and books and crap that came out as I could get my hands on. My mom took a dictionary and she made a shepherd's journal cover for it with crayons.
I love that.
Like, I was obsessed. Like, I think it was maybe one of the first times I thought to myself, this is my favorite Disney movie. Because before that, it's like, I love this movie. I love this one. It's new. It came out. I love this one. It's new. And I think that was my first, like, this is my favorite Disney movie, and it is going to stay my favorite movie. And that stuck with me for a really long time. Even after, like, Treasure Planet came out, like, I loved that one. But I think Atlantis stayed in that space. And as I've grown up a little bit, I have more favorite movies now. But Atlantis is still in this, like,
it's
rotation of, like, when I want to watch a movie, Atlantis is one of those top movies. I was going to show what I had with me because all my stuff is at my mom's house, but I have books.
Yeah. Love it.
I have books, and I have this book is really cool. I actually didn't get this one until a couple years ago, but it's kind of like the art of animation books they make, but because it's older, it's a little different. But it's got the script of the entire film with like drawings and other such
concept
things.
art. I love looking at concept art. I think that's so fascinating.
And then I have my my little decoder, so you could find the.
Okay, I love this aspect of the movie. And I know they do this in lots of movies, but just how they created this world, I don't know. I think it feels special because it's an animated movie. That like it makes sense in a big blockbuster like Avatar.
Yeah.
You know, that they would create this big world. But like this Disney animated movie that they brought on a linguist and created this language and that they built up this world from obviously their like myths and legends about Atlantis that are already there. But
and then like I think Journey to the Center of the Earth was a reference at some point. But they were able to take that and run with it. And I love stories. At one point I wanted to be a writer. I don't know if I have the whatever it takes to be a writer, but I love ingesting other people's stories. It doesn't even matter like if I know anything about it or not. I will spend hours listening to random people on YouTube talk about like ancient Greek stories, Irish myths, like that kind of stuff. So when a solid, good story comes my way, I will ingest it. That sounds weird,
Yeah.
but I'm not
No,
actually
I get
eating
it.
it, but like I'm going to absorb
No, I
what I'm
get it.
hearing. Maybe someday I'll be able to write something, but for the most part, I like hearing them and absorbing like that information and being like, okay, well, how did you get there? How did we get from here to here? Like, what influenced you in your life to be able to make up this kind of story or whatever? Like, the fact that they made up a whole functioning language for this movie.
Right.
That's
Right.
crazy. I don't know how
Yeah.
long of time that takes, but
Yeah.
that's something Tolkien did when he was writing Lord
Right.
of the Rings. That's the reason Lord of the
Exactly.
Rings exists, is because he wrote a language and he wanted to, or a couple of languages, and wanted to do something with them. So he
Yeah.
said, I'm going to write a book and insert my languages into them. Like, that's insane. How do you
Yeah.
have time to do that?
We have patience to do that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that kind of dedication and just that drive and desire to, they want to make something and they want to make it good. It's not just a cash grab, which is
Yeah.
what I feel like we've been getting a lot of lately. It's
I think that's-
there's not any passion, or it doesn't
Yeah.
feel to me. Maybe there is. It doesn't feel like
I'm
there's
sure,
passion.
yeah, I'm sure the people who are working on it every single day, but
Yeah.
I think it starts with how, like, it starts from way before those people who are working on it every day get it.
And
No, I think that's great.
it also does help that one of my other favorite Disney movies is Hunchback of Notre Dame, and that entire same team that worked on that movie they were the team for Atlantis.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I read that and I did not even put that together. What I more thought was like, oh, right after they finished Hunchback, like, oh, they did it. Oh, the timing. But the same people. Interesting.
They wanted to do another movie together. So I was going to mention this and I forgot. This is animation related.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to read. This is from Wikipedia.
So
So the final pull-out scene of the movie, so like you're getting the city in the background and the camera's panning back this way. Immediately before the end title card was described by the directors as one of the most difficult scenes in history of Disney animation. They said that the pull-out attempt on their prior film, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, struggled and lacked depth. However, after making advances in the process of multiplaning, they tried the technique again in Atlantis and then simultaneously flying across the scene to make the viewer see a complete integrated image. So they wanted to give us the entire scope of Atlantis before the title crawl started. And
yeah.
I think that's so cool.
If you can pull that image and add it in
Yeah.
for this one, that'd be great just to show it.
They also shot it in widescreen. I'm not sure if that was a newer thing. But so there's a couple of movies Kyle and I have watched recently where I've noticed that there's parts of the movie that are widescreen and there's parts of the movie that are full screen. And it's weird, but the widescreen shots are always during like action sequences. And that,
Like what kind of movies?
like,
Live action?
yeah, like I don't Star Wars maybe, like, but I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But it was a recent movie we watched. I was like, suddenly widescreen.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the kind of shot that they're going for. Like, rather than like a close-up shot like this, they were going for a wide shot.
Yeah.
And then at some point they just started doing wide shot for every animated movie that came out. But Atlantis was one of the earlier ones. I remember it being widescreen instead of full screen.
Interesting. Just before we move off the prompts, did you music overall?
Oh gosh.
I like James Newton Howard just in general. I think he's done really great stuff. It's not like, he's not a John Williams by any means, but like he worked on the Batman movies and in the 2000s, and he's someone that when I'm listening to movie scores and I'm like, oh, I really like this, and then I look and I'm like, oh yeah, James Newton Howard.
Cool.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. I love the soundtrack for Atlantis. I used to listen to it on repeat. Oh, he did. Okay, he did Treasure Planet too. I love both of those
Oh, yeah.
soundtracks.
I love
Yeah.
the score for Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
That's one that comes up in when I'm listening to movie scores a lot, because that
Yeah.
is a really good score.
There's only a handful of movie or composers, I guess, where I can kind of recognize their style. What's the guy? I just lost. Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer.
He's the main one that I'll notice.
Yeah, and he worked on Batman with.
Yeah. He does
the
does the majority of the ones that I'll be like, I recognize that style. Honestly, it just has to do with a certain type of instrument that they like to use.
Yeah.
I'll be like, there's a lot of strings happening in this song. That's probably a Hans Zimmer. Or like, this one has a lot
And
of
John Williams has a very specific trumpet sound.
Yeah, I was gonna say trumpet sounds are very in the. So, yeah, I would say, like, if I was gonna say my favorite like song, it would be the Crystal Chamber. Just because it's pretty.
So we've touched on it a little bit, but what I want to understand or get your perspective on is why, clearly you love this movie, you loved it from the beginning. Why is this such an underrated Disney movie? And now it has a cult following, and there's definitely a sector of people that love this movie. But why did it not hit?
I like to blame Shrek. I don't know if that was entirely Shrek's fault. I think that didn't help. I think what was the movie that came out before?
Emperor's New Groove. So, and before that was Dinosaur.
Yeah.
So it was entering a rough patch.
So we went from Tarzan to Dinosaur.
The Fantasia 2000.
And Fantasia 2000, which was...
Yeah. Like, doesn't really count.
Dinosaur was a movie that exists. I haven't seen it since it came out.
The biggest thing that I don't even want to review that. That's like the last movie we will review.
The music was okay.
Do not make me watch that. What I remember most from Dinosaur is I think McDonald's gave out hand puppets.
Yep.
And we had the hand puppet.
Yep, they were plastic but and terrible.
I can't, that is probably ranked the lowest. I would rather watch the wartime short films than
Yeah.
Don't make me watch that.
I just think we were going into a different, like a weird transition. There was a weird transition time, and it wasn't just Disney. DreamWorks was doing this too, because around the same time, like The Prince of Egypt came out. Gorgeous film. All the way around. Everything about it was beautiful. Even Jeff Goldblum. He was in it and he did fine.
Love it.
And then you've got Treasure Planet, and you've got Atlantis and Emperor's New Groove. There was just kind of this new style that came on the scene, and it didn't last very long. And I think some of that had to do with the fact that you had all these new CGI movies coming out that were more interesting. You had 2001, Lord of the Rings came out. I'm in that time period, 2001 to 2003, like that was a big fantasy that opened the door to live action fantasy films. So then later you got Twilight, Hunger Games, all those silly movies. But I don't know. I think
animated Ice Age came out in 2002. That's another one. We watched that.
Yeah.
Anytime there was a rainy day in school, we watched Ice Age.
That's hilarious. It's
got
just
real sick Ice Age.
Movie companies, animation companies were figuring out there was a faster, cheaper way to pump out films, and that was CGI. And so they were doing that. I'm not saying that makes them bad. I don't know about Ice Age. I did watch that one a lot, but I don't remember the animation being super great. But I don't know. I just think I had competition. It was really different from what everybody
I think the
was used
competition
to.
is a
Yeah.
really good point. And I just watched a good YouTube video about that, but I'm not going to be able to reiterate the stuff that they said. But it was a time when other studios were popping out. And even just thinking about other times, other movies from that era that I remember, like things like Chicken Run. Did you watch Chicken
I
Run?
freaking love Chicken Run.
Yeah.
That
I
movie
want
is
to go watch that. I
fantastic.
gotta see where that's streaming. I haven't seen that in
It's
forever.
on Netflix.
Oh, you know.
Yes,
But
because
that came out in 2000.
yep.
So like Disney went through this slump and all
Other
these other studios,
yeah.
or we realized like other people can make movies too.
Yeah. I
I'm guessing El Dorado is around that
yeah,
time.
yep.
Yep,
El
2000.
Dorado. Yep. Which another great movie. Another great
Yeah.
DreamWorks film. One that I don't know if you saw it, but Titan AE was a Don Bluth
No,
film.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's weird. It's good, but it's very like it's sci-fi. It's sci-fi for animation, and it came out around the same like 2000-ish area.
Yeah.
There was this push for a new type of animated film, and it wasn't just geared towards like little kids. They were more mature, not too mature, but more mature.
Right.
They were a little heavier on the themes. They were more anime-esque in their design, and parents were just like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know about this.
Yeah.
So now you've got a
Especially,
bunch
like,
of people like
for
me who are
kids during
in their
Renaissance.
and you in their 30s that love these weird movies that came out during that time frame. Like I would say most of my favorite films are from that era because they were different.
Yeah. And it's a pivotal time in your life as a kid too.
Yeah.
So it sticks out more than like the Renaissance films, which we just enjoyed because we were kids and we enjoyed things.
Yeah. And I will forever be angry with Disney for not making an Atlantis ride at Disneyland, and for canceling the TV series for Atlantis that they were gonna do. Like that kind of stuff makes me sad.
Yeah.
Like why Disney? Instead, they were like, Nemo made more money. We're gonna make that one a ride. It's like it's not even
Nemo was a really good movie.
I mean, it was, but like, and that's the other thing. They were competing with themselves.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This was the time of Pixar. Oh, this is just random, but I saw it in my notes, and I must say it out loud and see if you agree. Mole, when we first met him, was giving me major Edna Mode vibes.
Really?
Yes.
That's
I need
funny.
you to go back and just watch that intro and like think about that. And I was just like, why is he giving me Edna Mode
That's so funny.
vibes when we're introduced to it? So I just needed to add that. That was like my
I'll
one
have
really
to-
important contribution.
I'll have to go back.
Next time you watch it.
Yes.
I wonder, like, has everybody seen it? And if they haven't, what is your one, like, your pitch of, like, this is why you need to go watch this movie? Yeah. I'm here with the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I've even... It's so different from your, like we've been saying, from your traditional Disney Renaissance film, and even the movies they've been putting out with since.
What comes after?
Yeah. It's very like action adventure, and it's just a really good story. It's so like exciting in you've got this character that's reading, like able to read this dead language, and is able to, I don't know. I've always like loved the going on an adventure sort of movies, and this is that is what this movie is. It is oh, we're gonna go find this thing that doesn't exist. It's not supposed to exist, and you know,
Down.
and even in the movie, they're like, we're thinking all we're gonna find is some like broken pottery, because that's typically what you find when you go on an adventure in real life. You find a bunch of dead things.
Yeah.
Old, broken. A
Okay.
lot of the times I was watching this Egyptian documentary or whatever a while back,
Mhm.
and most of the time when they find a tomb, it has been robbed.
Yeah.
So they just find bits and pieces of things that are left over. But they
Yeah.
show up, they find this civilization that's still alive
Yeah.
and functioning. And I love the creativity of the crystal, like preserving their life. I would like to have had more information about the crystal. I think that's, if we want to like
Mhm.
go back, I would say like that's what I would want more
Yeah.
of. Tell me how
Yeah.
this, why does it work this way? Why has it been here for,
Mhm.
I would like, can I have an Atlantis prequel?
Right. Right.
So,
I think that's an opportunity for a live action film rather than them just remaking the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
If you're gonna force us to watch, I feel like we talk about this every episode too. If you're gonna force us to watch a live action of these things, give
Yeah.
us a new story.
Yep.
Give us a background in the crystal.
Yep. I'd watch, I would potentially watch that, depending on who directed it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just a fun adventure. There's a little bit of romance in there, but not enough to be like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And Milo's so endearing.
Yeah.
He really is. Just from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like,
You
yeah,
can
and
tell.
Michael J. Fox is like the perfect voice for it. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's good.
And beautiful animation and music.
So, all right, I'll share my rating first. And I'm putting. Oh, I gotta go through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this is your first episode. The rating scale is as follows. At the bottom, the one-time watch. I'm not watching this again. Level above that, I mean, I won't turn the TV off if the movie's on. So that's like, you don't really care all that much. But next level up is a lovely background movie. Then we have watching once a year is not enough, but that's all I have time for because I'm an adult with a job. And then the top tier is my kids will love this movie whether they like it or not. So I'm putting this at just for myself at watching once a year is not enough. But that's all I have time for.
My
Because I'm an
son
adult with a
will love this movie whether he likes it or not.
I'm shocked that that's your answer.
He's seen it at least twice since he was born 11 months ago.
Jessica's son will love this, and any other child that she comes in contact with. Well, how many times have you made your nieces watch it?
A couple times. Well, I'm not with them as much, but a couple times for
It
sure.
is Jessica's life mission.
It is.
To
I
make
will.
Everybody love it.
I remember watching this movie in the garage with my cousins. I made them sit down and watch it with me. So
When Jessica says she made them do it, like I can like picture, even though I wasn't there, like I can picture that is the kind of kid she was. It's like,
annoying.
okay, you said it, not me. No, just
Yeah.
kidding.
No, I know I was an annoying child. I didn't have a sibling to keep me in check, you know? I just.
Oh, goodness.
But,
Well, Jess, I've been looking forward to talking about one of your favorite movies, and it did not disappoint. So,
We'll
I
have to
hope
do
our viewers.
We'll have to do one of your favorites.
I know we gotta think about that because we've talked about it before, but I feel like I'm more of an overall consumer
Yeah.
of Disney, whereas like you very much like have your favorites and have your like your loves, and I'm like I just want it all. But I definitely have my favorites, so I have some ideas of where we could go next, but
Love it. Love it.
come back to find out. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications.
Go
Ding.
watch Atlantis if you haven't yet.
Go watch Atlantis and then come
How
back.
are you friends with me if you haven't watched it?
If you're watching this YouTube video, hour-plus long YouTube video with us talking about Disney movies, and you haven't watched Atlantis,
What are you doing?
you better fix some things.
Oh, man.
All right. Do we have a sign-off? I don't remember. It's been a while since we were recording.
We'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Mouse and the Goof.
The Mouse and the Goof.
Signing
off.
Bye.
Bye.